Benjamin Netanyahu went to Washington, D.C. yesterday to talk to Trump. And then Trump came out and said that the U.S. is going to own Gaza. Some crazy stuff. So we're going to start by playing this clip, and then we'll go from there, okay?
The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip, and we will do a job with it, too. We'll own it and be responsible for dismantling all of the dangerous unexploded bombs and other weapons on the site, level the site and get rid of the destroyed buildings, level it out, create an economic development that will supply unlimited numbers of jobs and housing for the people of the area. Do a real job, do something different. Just can't go back. If you go back, it's going to end up the same way it has for 100 years.
That's insanity, right? How crazy is... I mean, it's impossible, right, what he's saying.
Yeah, I don't see... We're not going to own the Gaza Strip. That's not going to happen. Israel's not going to let it happen. I think that no one else in the U.S. wants that to happen. It's extraordinary. I mean, it's just a crazy comment. This is Trump. One thing I just want to comment on is that he really is a real estate developer. That's the way he thinks about things. He's looking at a map and say, wow, that would be a nice piece of territory. Let's take Greenland and then Canada. And now he's looking at Gaza, seafront property right there on the Mediterranean, pleasant climate. Hey, we could do some wonderful things with this, this piece of land here. It seems to be the way he really thinks. It's quite extraordinary. Now, and I think it also needs to be pointed out that these were not off-the-cuff remarks. That's not Trump does that kind of thing all the time. He says some things to the reporters on an airplane or whatever, and he's just best, half the time anyway, just to ignore what he said. But these were prepared remarks. They were written down. And more than that, they were posted on X and then reposted. So, I mean, that again demonstrates the seriousness with which he delivered these remarks.
Well, if you watch that clip, when he says, we'll own it, that seemed to have been an off-the-cuff remark, because you can see Netanyahu, how he looked at him.
Yeah.
Did you notice that? It seemed like it was the first time Netanyahu heard that.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking about that, right? Obviously, what's Netanyahu thinking?
I feel like what was maybe discussed and prepared was the idea that the U.S. would develop it, but it's with that it was going to always be for the Israelis, that it was going to be part of Israel was kind of the plan. Yeah. But then when Trump said we'll own it, you could see Netanyahu was like, "What? This isn't so." That seemed a little off the cuff, but
okay, well, possibly, but again, I think it was posted and reposted. I mean that very remark. But maybe like in his mind, we own it. It's just like we'll take responsibility for it. Perhaps that's what he's saying. Again, a president really shouldn't speak so loosely. It just can't happen. But also it's clear that he's doubling down on the ethnic cleansing idea, because, the notion is, we just get them out of here and, get them settled in nice houses, really nice houses in places like Jordan and Egypt. And everybody's happy. He really seems to believe that vision, and I'm sure that Netanyahu shares it. Sure, we will drive them out. The Americans will pay for their new housing somewhere. But again, that's not quite so crazy. And the thing, that a lot of people are shrieking and hollering about this, as they should. But the truth is that that's what the previous administration wanted to do. They just weren't so open about it. I think some of Anthony Blinken's first visits were to Jordan and Egypt, trying to convince them to take Palestinian refugees. Really, and they said no because they understood what was going on. This is just ethnic cleansing, and you're making us complicit in it.
Right. Trump says the quiet part out loud.
Yeah. Right. And that is, it's actually good in a way. It's not, maybe it's maybe it's, it actually is harmful to all these causes like Zionism and globalism. The previous administrations had a way of speaking about these things that was fundamentally false. That hid a lot of the ugly realities. Especially in connection with Zionism. He just says it out loud, and I think that's actually good. It hurts the cause.
Right. So where do you see this going, though? I mean, like you said, it's impossible. Jordan and Egypt, they won't accept this. And if they did, we would probably see a revolution in Jordan and Egypt. You know, they're already at breaking point, and the United States is paying off these governments, or maybe not Jordan anymore for so much longer, but paying off these governments to, allow to support the Israeli regime. But the people don't want this. This is clearly something that is a huge point of tension for these countries. So
Yeah, I think it's highly, highly unlikely that he can convince them to do it. Now, he will certainly make threats and apply leverage, and we have to say that he does have leverage in this case. Again, both governments have been funded to the tune of tens of billions of dollars, over the decades, and they are dependent on the U.S. And they're both very poor countries. I think especially Egypt, and without American help, they'd be in real trouble. Now they also get a lot of, I think, economic subsidies from Saudi Arabia, so maybe there's an alternative for them. But if you really apply the pressure, I still don't think they would say yes to it. It's just so fundamentally against their own interests. One thing in the case of the Egyptian government, they are actually very anti-Hamas. They have a Muslim Brotherhood, an underground organization now, but this Muslim Brotherhood won the only election that Egypt has had in decades, a good 10, 15 years ago. It was after the, so-called Arab Spring. The Muslim Brotherhood came to power through popular, fair elections. But then they were overthrown by the current government. Now we have Sisi. And he detests them and considers them a mortal threat. The Muslim Brotherhood is very closely allied to Hamas. So the thing is, if he does not want 1 million Gazans on his territory, he knows that they're Hamas and Hamas supporters, and that they're his deadly enemies. He does not want to see them there. And then over in the case of Jordan, as we've pointed out earlier, more than 50% of the population is Palestinian. They're very, very unhappy with the policies of the Jordan government. And if you add another, 1 million Gazans to Jordan, that just tips the scale again, that much more in the direction of revolution, of anger and dissatisfaction with the current regime, led by the king. So I think both of these countries probably look at this as existential. There are a lot of things they're willing to bend to the U.S. and they do it again and again, but I think it highly unlikely that they'll give in on this. This was because it really puts their own regimes at risk.
So do you think this is just Trump doing Trump, just getting everybody riled up and just saying things, or is there actually some substance behind this? What does this mean?
It's hard to know. It's just with Trump. It's just. Is there an actual plan? Does he know that this is just impossible? I don't think he does. I think he probably really believes in it. I guess, again, when I first heard about Greenland and Canada, that was my thought. I didn't know. He was just he was doing something to grab attention and, stir the pot. But now I'm not so sure, because he's been actually come back to these themes again and again. And you do see this sort of this recurring theme of real estate, right?
Right.
I think he's serious, but it just can't happen. The U.S. is not going to own Gaza, and I don't think they're going to succeed in their ethnic cleansing effort. But it may be that part of what happened anyway, between Netanyahu and Trump, was that Trump said, "Hey, let's do this ceasefire. I know you don't want to do it, but if you do it, I'll help you with Gaza, and I'll arrange to have these other countries take in the Gazans, and I'll help you with reconstruction and so forth." It may very well be kind of a carrot that he offered to Netanyahu, prior to the ceasefire agreement.
Yeah,
but I don't think he really can carry through on it.
Hey guys, I hope you're enjoying the conversation so far. I promise to only take 1 minute of your time. If you're using AI, please consider checking out my website, Novlisky.io. Right now, we're in the middle of this AI arms race. Nobody knows what's the best AI to use. Yesterday was OpenAI, and everybody's talking about DeepSeek. This is great for us as consumers of AI, but what's not so great is having to jump from platform to platform. You don't want to have to sign up for a monthly subscription on OpenAI and then move over to Anthropic and then move over to DeepSeek. So what we built here at Novlisky is an AI hub. It allows you to access hundreds of AI models. We update them as soon as a new model comes out. It is integrated into our system, and you can use them all under one platform. And another thing that's so great about this website is that you can easily use multiple models at the same time to compare which is best for whatever use case. So, for example, I'm going to use Anthropic and GPT-4 at the same time. So I get side-by-side results. I use this in my work every single day. I think you'll find it incredibly useful. There's tons of customizations. We have an iOS and Android native app as well, so you have seamless synchronization across all devices. So please check it out. I think it's something you'll find incredibly useful. There are no subscription fees, no rate limits. I guarantee you it's going to save you money, and it's just going to keep you on top of all AI releases.
Right. Maybe it's because he feels like he's on a roll with the way he handled Colombia, Canada, and Mexico, threatening them with tariffs, and then they, made concessions and moved in. He's like, look, I can do this. We're the United States. I'm the biggest kid on the block. Yeah. I have leverage over Jordan, Egypt. Let's just do this, clear it out, we'll move the Palestinians. And in his own mind, he's probably justifying it in also humanitarian way. Well, I'll save these people. And the way he talks about it is like, well, like he said, like a real estate agent, it's like, we'll get them places with lots of sunlight. Great. It's like, what are you talking about?
Yeah,
like
right.
With no idea that this is their home, that they've been going through what much of the world, and both of you and I agree, is a genocide over the past 15 months that was done by U.S. bombs. He talks about like the place is a mess, it's unlivable. It's like, because we bombed it, because we we were complicit in destroying over 90% of the homes there and slaughtering, who knows? He did say in another part of that, the press conference afterwards, that he was saying 1.7, 1.8 million, would have to be removed. So is that almost an acknowledgement that the population of Gaza used to be 2.1 or 2.3, 2.3? Yeah, that we killed 500,000 people. I mean, is that what he's almost saying?
That may actually be an accurate number. We've, interestingly, like the direct killed number has now jumped. They put it up to 61,000. And what happened? Now that the health authority can go and visit these sites, they've already found, I think, approximately 1,000 bodies, several hundreds of bodies, and they've added that to the count. But they're just looking at these places and going over all their records, and they've determined that there are 14,000 people that are just gone and are almost certainly under the rubble, and we may never get them. Either just too deep under the rubble, or they were just vaporized by a 2,000-pound bomb or something. So it's now over 61,000. But as we pointed out many times, that's just the tip of the iceberg, because for every person that's directly killed, there's typically 4 to 15 other people that die in a war. So it could very easily be something like 500,000 or 600,000 total people that actually died as a result of this attack on Gaza.
Do you think we'll actually see an American presence in Gaza? Will he make that move? I mean, when he says America owns Gaza, what is he talking about? Are we going to be sending troops in to push out the people of Gaza? I mean, it's not going to work.
Well, it sounds like... Well, yeah, I don't know. It's not clear. But yeah, he's talking about sending troops there, demining, removing unexploded ordnance and all that thing, and clearing, the rubble. And sounds like he's going to send the Marines in to do this work.
You really think that's what we will do? We would send in American troops into Gaza.
Yeah, I don't think so. Actually, I don't think Trump would actually do that. I think he's imagining that the Gazans will leave voluntarily to go to their sunny new homes, and then the troops will go in.
Yeah, because
he
like
didn't
you said,
actually spell it out in that much detail, but I think that's probably what he's thinking.
Right. I mean, I think you're right. I mean, in his mind, it's just he's a realtor. He's saying like, look, your home's destroyed. We got even a better home here. Look at it. It's great. Look at the sunlight coming through these windows, and he thinks that he can just do it and he can convince Jordan and Egypt to take him in. But it's impossible. The world wouldn't allow it, right? I mean, like it just can't happen, right? I mean, Iran wouldn't let it happen. The Axis of Resistance is going to fire back up. I mean, and then
I don't know. I mean, the world might let it happen, but like I say, for Egypt and for Jordan, I think it's highly, highly unlikely. I can't say it's impossible. They might just decide this is terrible, but we don't have a choice. My government's going to collapse if the Americans suspend aid, or just cut off the aid flow. We'll just have to do this. But I don't think they will, because I think they do rightly regard it as an existential threat. And I don't think in the end that Trump can actually make good on the threat of cutting off aid to these countries. And the reason I say that is that there was a reason the U.S. did this in the first place, and that was actually to protect Israel. It was all, part of the Zionist project. And so, the Zionists, I don't think, are going to let this happen. He can make the threat, but I don't think they'll let him carry through on it. And I think maybe the Egyptian and Jordanian leaders understand this. So, I think it's extremely unlikely that this will happen.